Okay.
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 Okay. 1 second. I'll have to. There is a small network issue.
Some network issues occurred, right? Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Shri, your content is not visible. You have to share it with me.
Now?
Yeah, got it.
Got it.
Morning everyone. Welcome to Economy 2020 Research Paper Presentation Webinar organized by Casper. We have with us our presenters Shruti Satpathy and Shrikabya Parasa from TISS Hyderabad and our panel members Ms. Saheli Bose, Senior Researcher at UGC NET and Ms. Ankita Garg from Ascension Center for Research and Analytics. Presenters, please introduce yourselves and begin with the topic.
So, hello, good morning, everyone. I'm Shrishti Satpathy, and here is my teammate Sri Kavya Parasa. We are students of Public Policy and Governance, and we are from TISS Hyderabad. And we'll be presenting on the topic the post-pandemic recovery chances of Indian economy, as well as the restoration of livelihoods in the informal sector. So, come what may, and we shall find a way. With this attitude, the Indian economy has successfully bounced back every time it has faced a challenge or a crisis, whether it was during the 1980s liquidity crisis or the more recent 2007-8 global recession. However, this time we have a much bigger and complex problem facing before us, and this is the Corona challenge, which is like literally put every nation at the end of their wits. It has posed a big dilemma as to whether we should be saving lives or whether we should be saving livelihoods. And this is so, and this is during the time when the national lockdown is being carried out in phases. After all, it's a fact that Indian economy has had problems regarding high unemployment rate, and the Indian government has been struggling with the fact that they have to generate more jobs in the light of this crisis. Moreover, the bigger question is how do we save the present jobs and we create the new ones?
Now, coming to the impact of COVID-19 around the globe, this is not the first time that the world is facing a pandemic. We have seen several pandemics like Spanish flu of 1918, AIDS, Ebola, swine flu, etc. But COVID-19 is something different. It has been termed as the black swan event for the global economy, and it has posed toughest hurdles for the countries. And the unprepared world is now made to suffer, it's now made to face the biggest challenge of Corona. And it's the biggest health crisis that we have faced in the recent times. And it's also been described as the worst global crisis since the World War II. COVID-19 is, as we all know, is an acute respiratory disorder which is caused by the novel coronavirus, originally found in, originated in the Wuhan province, and within a month of time, it became a global pandemic. In order to contain the spread of the virus, several countries have resorted to measures like imposing lockdown. Through lockdown, though, we are able to prevent the transmission, but there are several other economic repercussions that the lockdown has brought along with it. So, few of them are like due to restriction of transportation of raw materials and finished goods, the trade and the commerce has come to an abrupt halt, and closure of the national borders has further added to the intermission in the trade and commerce globally. and this has led to disruption of supply mechanisms and distribution chains as well. We have witnessed a complete collapse in the consumer demand, and the non-essential expenditures have stood very low. And the one major problem that has been emanated from this COVID-19 and the lockdown is the rise in unemployment. A lot of people around the globe have been robbed of their jobs. And according to international labor organizations, 25 million jobs are at risk, affecting around 3.3 billion people around the world. Now, unemployment is not is not a new problem. It's an age-old problem in India, and it's a complex problem arising due to numerous overlapping and intertwined reasons, which could vary from micro-level factors to macro-level factor reasons. And we also face few demand and supply-side problems, which curtail the process of employment in the country. And over the years, especially since the economic reforms, the growth rate of India has been described as jobless growth. For instance, in the decade 2001 to 2011, the average growth rate has been around 7.7%, whereas that of employment was just a meager 1.8%. Employment has hardly contributed to the economic growth in the country. Also, the quality of jobs that they were generated were not that great. Emerging phenomena like informalization in the formal sector could be cited as an example for deterioration of quality of jobs over the years. Also, due to the policies like GST and demonetization, the process of employment has been further affected, and in the financial year 2017-18 we have hit an unemployment rate of 6.1%, which was the then highest in last 45 years. Now in order, like all the countries, India has also imposed lockdown to tackle the corona crisis. On March 24th, 2020, the lockdown has brought a lot of economic repercussions, and one main problem that it has brought along is unemployment. It further aggravated the unemployment crisis in the country, and we have experienced an all-time high unemployment rate of 23.5% as per the reports of Center for Monitoring Indian Economy. And out of the total workforce, the most affected ones are those working in the informal sector, who constitute around 93% of the total workforce in the country, according to Economic Survey 2018-19. And the most affected ones among the informal workers are the daily laborers and casual workers who, due to abrupt shutdown of industries, lost their food, shelter, and lack of savings and lack of social security benefits and other regular income facilities. They have become more vulnerable and affected due to the ongoing crisis.
Now, although this lockdown was aimed at breaking the chain of transmission, yet simultaneously a mass exodus of thousands of working poor has been observed. Nearly 50 million people are being reported to have left the Indian cities and migrated back to their own villages, which can very well be termed as an instance of reverse migration. And the main reason for this being almost zero economic activity. Right now, they are the most vulnerable among the lot, since they run the risk of facing hunger, absolute poverty, as well as they can't really protect themselves from COVID-19 threat. It is also now very evident that the informal sector is the one that has been severely affected by this lockdown, with the emerging accounts of the socio-economic plight of these workers and the government's apparent apathy to them. And already this sector had been weakened by the introduction of the GST as well as the demonetization policy. And right now, the sector is crumbling further under the undue pressure of the lockdown, which even raises questions on the feasibility of availability of your decent work in the near future, let alone the thing that the government is right now struggling to arrange jobs for people. Now, what does this informal sector really comprise of? It mostly consists of, let's say, the sectors like manufacturing, trade, hotel and restaurant business, construction, transportation, communication, small enterprises, household services, marketing, entertainment industry, public works, agriculture, and other agro-based industries. And this sector particularly employs nearly 90% of the working population, and hence it acts as a major contributor to the GDP of our economy as well, which shows the extent of the impact that this sector is facing, as well as the people which are dependent directly or indirectly on this sector. Now, looking at the revival of the economy, the possibilities and the challenges ahead. The immediate challenge before us is definitely the sudden increase in the number of layoffs, with many industries, firms, businesses hit severely by this lockdown. This was kind of inevitable. Also, given the fact that there has been a substantial decrease in levels of aggregate demand and supply, uh, something that had already been impacted by demonetization and GST earlier, and now the lockdown has totally created a complete halt to your levels of supply and demand. Now at this point, we obviously require an active state involvement, and which in turn requires a strong public policy to be framed. However, the pre-COVID precarity of our economy and which obviously includes a political economy in a way, it has kind of made it evident that the fiscal space provided to the state or available to the state is not much. Why is it so? The banks and the other financial institutions, which are your regular sources of credit, they are themselves struggling due to a series of bad loans, NPAs, and scams such as the recent ILFS scam. And they are also being impacted by the routine weak monetary policy by the RBI and the constant governmental interference. Due to this, the credit flow has been severely strained, and what has actually resulted that the state is not able to arrange for much finances, and now the lockdown and the battling of COVID-19 has kind of increased the health expenses and other economic expenses, and people are kind of directly dependent on government expenditure right now, uh, especially at a time when the revenues and the tax collections for the government is on a decline. So this is also showing up as spillover effects on almost all sectors imaginable, like ranging from your aviation, FMCG, gig economy, your household income, then agriculture, etc., etc. And as a result, the investments, incomes, trade opportunities, and the consumption level are badly hit at this point. Uh, Based on these factors, it can be said the recovery of the economy seems pretty much difficult, as in the process is very difficult, and it will take nearly at least a year. At least that's what the ILO has been predicting, estimating, and however, we won't really say that the process is totally impossible. It is possible, but it is difficult, provided that the institutions like state, the financial institutions, and the banking sector have to team up on this. Like they have to make a stronger network between them, and they need to strengthen themselves also in order to get this right.
Now we have few policy recommendations as to how we can revive the economy as well as restore the livelihoods in the informal sector. Although there is a huge blow on the spending power of center and state governments in handling this COVID crisis, but there is a very great need to adopt a vast array of policy measures with coordinated effort in order to revive the economy. So the measures should take up a Keynesian approach, as I've already mentioned, the demand has stooped very low because of the consumer demand has stooped very low because of the COVID crisis. So it's really essential to inject demand back into the market to raise the levels of consumption and production subsequently. So for this, immediate support has to be rendered via cash transfers to the informal workers, unemployed and self-employed people via the Jan Dhan accounts, post office accounts, and using all the possible coordination networks through the panchayats and the local administration. And this method, this policy would be successful, and it will be able to create demand only if it is associated with certain secondary policies or the associated policies, wherein the other aspects like health, housing, and food of these population is taken care of. And this can be done by putting into use all the institutional networks available like Anganwadis, Panchayati bhavans, government schools, colleges, railway stations, bus stations for housing, and also of providing, setting up of feeding centers to take care of the food needs. Coming to the interventions post-lockdown, as we all know, migrant workers are the most vulnerable and have been the most badly affected community because of the lockdown, and most of them have returned back to their villages, and their arrival back into the urban spaces post the recovery and post the lockdown is a big question mark. So the government has to take up confidence building measures and ensure special security benefits to the migrant workers, those who come back for work, and it has to regain their trust back in order to keep the urban industries running. And also it can alternatively invest in a few public work programs as well, like construction, maintenance, manufacturing, production and services, to absorb the unemployed labor workforce in the country. And firms, on the other hand, should be encouraged not to lay off the laborers, and also government can share the burden of wages by allocating 2 to 3% of the GDP to the cause, like many of the Western countries have already did this. So this would help the companies to recover back to normalcy. And as we all know, Manrega has been a very successful policy in the rural areas, and it has been providing livelihood for the rural population for a quite long time. It's high time we see an urban counterpart of this policy, wherein the urban workforce is also provided a livelihood, and that will help them to sustain for a period of time. Coming to the role of financial institutions, the RBI and other associated financial institutions need to play a very active role in to ensure recovery and recovery of the economy. Also, the credit limits have to be raised to 25% on the existing regular accounts. They have to be equipped with cuts in the repo rates and as well as the cash reserve ratio. Special focus must be rendered towards the MSME and SHGs, since they employ a lot of they are the huge employers of the informal workers. So they should be given interest rates, loans at lower interest rates, and easy credit facility should be made available, and also they have to be given loan deferment repayment deferrals as well. As I've mentioned earlier, many of the urban population is now shifting back to the rural places. It's very important to strengthen the rural livelihood. So the rural livelihood generation and diversification schemes should be implemented on a full roll to cater to the problems of reverse migration. And alternatively, the government can set up rural-based agro industries, and it should focus on skill development and encourage rural entrepreneurship, since agriculture is already facing the problem of disguised unemployment. There must be a there must be a focus on the skill development so that these people could generate their income through alternative means. Also, the financial assistance schemes like Kalya, Raitu Bandhu, PM Kisan, they should be implemented by all the states. All the states which don't have financial assistance schemes to the farmers should also implement these kind of schemes, and now they should include the landless agricultural laborers as well, which would provide them. Yes.
Sorry for the interruption, but we are running out of time. We need the panel to put up their questions now.
Yeah. Will you give me 2 minutes? I'll conclude this.
Okay, just 2 minutes.
Yeah. So as I've mentioned, the revival of rural industry is also important, and government must also actively engage in its procurement obligations since it's the harvest season. Also, in the long term, they can consider the option of universal basic income instead of the indirect subsidies, as the economy is going to take a little time to recover the employment and other related things. So UBI would provide people with the agency that they can work with, and it's high time that India undergoes a second round of structural reforms to correct the deficits and prepare ourselves better for another pandemic if it arrives anyway soon. Thank you.
Thank you.
So the panel can ask their questions now.
This is Shahili here. Nice presentation, but I found that you haven't mentioned any data in your presentation, and I mean, basis of what I ask you, what additional policy are you suggesting other than what we have already heard in the news? I mean, what you have said is many of these policies have already been rolled out by the government. So, what is extra in your presentation?
Saheli ma'am, actually your voice is breaking.
Okay. I think there's a network problem. Am I audible now?
Yes, ma'am, you are audible.
Okay, so I want to ask that firstly, there's a comment that I did not find much data in your presentation. You just stated certain facts without supporting them with data and data sources. That is something which I found in your presentation. Secondly, apart from what you suggested, many of the things the government is already rolling out. It's already in the process of implementing. So, what additional policies are you kind of suggesting?
Ma'am, can I answer that?
Yeah, sure. Anyone.
Yeah. So yes, yeah, it is definitely true that a lot of them have been rolled out or are in the process of being rolled out by the government. I think we have just we probably have a couple of things which are additional to what's there already out there. Number one is initiating public works, as in what the government can do. Government already has a lot of construction related projects, be it entirely owned by the government or in the PPP models. So there we took inspiration from what Lord Keynes had actually originally said for the Great Depression thing, that people can actually be engaged in public works projects, and let's say for new constructions or for maintenance of the old infrastructure. So that will kind of provide them with immediate jobs. So that's the number one suggestion we have. And number two would be your diversification of rural livelihoods. I think a lot. What we believe that a lot of state governments are not really looking into that. If the migrant workers can be trained accordingly with additional skills, and they can be given an opportunity to enter into rural livelihoods, since most of them have rural origins, then may possibly in the future they don't even need to migrate to other cities, and they can stay back in their own native places and have a stable source of livelihood.
Okay, so when you're presenting your work, you should focus more on what your contribution is and what other people are doing. Because then, you are repeating a lot of things and people fail to understand where you come in.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, ma'am.
Hi, this is Ankita. I agree with Saheli ma'am that there was a lot of repetition as to what all we read in newspapers, etc. these days. So there was no addition to the knowledge. In that sense, there was lack of data. Plus, I wanted to say that as you yourself have mentioned in the presentation, that there is tight fiscal space before the lockdown. So given that tight fiscal space, how will the government implement these policies in the lockdown period or post-lockdown period? Plus, you said that in order to bring back the migrants from their villages, there is a need to bring confidence building. So given that COVID-19 is still not gone, it is still very much there. So how easy will it be for the government to have such confidence building in the migrants?
As far as we agree that it's a very difficult task now for the government to build in the confidence measures back in the migrants for how they have been treated since the initiation of lockdown. But as I've mentioned, the government can provide special incentives in the form of security benefits and etc, and it can provide them transportation facilities from the villages back to urban areas, and it can attract them using various coordinated effort through a coordinated policies wherein they are provided extra benefits. So this could be a way out. And as she already mentioned, we have taken inspiration from Keynes. So since there is a tight physical space, the country, we can go for deficit financing. That's the only way out, because if we do not spend now, the economy will never recover back. So deficit financing is the way as to how we can go about this.
Okay.
Okay, so we are having two more questions from the audience. One is, the central government has released a stimulus package of rupees 20 crore. Is it enough for our country?
I believe that 20,000 crore worth package would still maybe like it might still fall short of addressing the problems. As in, I'm not very sure whether the amount is enough or not, but the way it needs to be distributed among the states, because the state governments are actually leading when it comes to your groundwork, your ground level implementation of the lockdown. So already there has been a political issue over how the states haven't got their dues, their GST dues from the center. So a lot of political questions can be raised over this. And regarding the economic question, whether this amount is enough or not, as of now, many economists have been speculating that this amount doesn't seem enough, and the center can give or create more fiscal space for this. And obviously, as Kavya mentioned, we do have certain options for deficit financing, like our national banking sector or financial institutions might not be up to the mark right now. Yet, uh, other international institutions like your Asian Development Bank, then IMF and World Bank are coming up with special loans regarding, just to address the problems, the fiscal problems of related to your pandemic only. So we can accept those kinds of helps maybe, and yeah. So at least in my opinion, I believe that maybe the 20,000 crore package is not enough in a sense that a lot of political questions might arise regarding center-state relations.
Okay, so no more questions are there, and we'll be ending this session. So finally, I would like to thank our researchers for their substantial contributions and our panel members for their valuable inputs. Thank you for being a part of Econovid 2020.
Thank you.
Thank you.